Part of the joy of Christmas is that people send you their favorite quotes from masters. So let's see if I have time to read some of these today. I came across a cartoon recently, and it was of two people meditating. And then one person turned to the other person and said, "Can you watch my breath for a few minutes? I have to move my car." We can realize God through meditation. We can dispel the darkness of ignorance and comprehend the light, as this passage is referring to. But we have to concentrate. We have to give energy to our meditation practice. We have to make it a priority. We have to put our energy into it, our love, our hearts. When I have meditated deeply and regularly, my brain changes, and meditation becomes what I am doing with my life. And all the other things are secondary. It is a wonderful feeling. And I wish that for all of you, to feel that your real job in life, which is the truth, is to find God and to meditate more and more deeply until we can awaken in Him. Yogananda said that all of this universe, all the universes, are just a dream of God's. That's why we sang this beautiful song, "Life is a Dream." Everything, every star, every sparrow, not a sparrow falls without His sight. Why? Because He is the sparrow. He is that. He's right there. He's experiencing. God is experiencing that life. Not a sparrow falls because He is that sparrow. And God is in every one of us. Yogananda said that God sleeps in the rocks. He dreams in the plants. In the animals, He starts to wake up. And in men and women, there is that potential to fully become awake in God, to dispel the darkness of ignorance and comprehend the light, to realize, self-realize that light and commune with it. That is the only purpose for our lives. That's why we were born, to do that thing. And God arranges every circumstance of our lives to draw us closer to that realization. In my mind, I call it the good, the bad, and the ugly. Those circumstances are either good, bad, or really ugly, but they're all designed to draw us to that light. And we should try to comprehend that everything that happens to me is to draw me closer to God. And surrender to that process. Trust that process. I love the book of Isaiah says in the Bible, "Nothing can stop God's plan for your life." Nothing can stop God's plan for your life. Isaiah 14:27. Look it up. It's worth it. That plan is the plan of perfection. That's why we were born, to become perfect. As Jesus said, "Don't you know that you are God's?" We have to realize that light within, commune with it, and become one with it. Think of it this way, on a spectrum from 1 to 100, because we care, because we want to find God, because we want higher values in our lives, because we want peace and joy and harmony, because we try to meditate, because we are drawn to these teachings. On a scale from 1 to 100, we're about 98.9% of the way there. We've done all the hard, slogging, miserable suffering to be done with the drama, to be done with the pain and suffering of not living in harmony with God. Now we care. We want to be in harmony with God's laws. We want to be free. Now is the fun part. We're at the point now where we get to experience the joy of waking up. This Bible passage that ends with, "The light shineth in darkness, and the darkness comprehendeth it not." The lines preceding that are very beautiful too. It's the passage you will all remember. "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God." Yogananda explains this as the Word being the vibration of Om. That is how God created everything that is, everything that we are a part of. That vibration of Om is the word. In Indian scriptures it says God moved in order to create all of creation. There was a movement, a vibration. The Bible also says, "Let there be light." God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. God spoke. There was a sound. There was a vibration. And at the heart, these are deep esoteric teachings, and part of that darkness of ignorance keeps us from comprehending, of realizing these truths. But the more we study, the more we are receptive, the more we are quiet and meditate, the more these teachings sink in until we realize them. Anyone who's ever studied a textbook knows that you can read and read and read over and over and over, and you can maybe even say the words right back to your teacher, but understanding them, realizing them is a whole different thing. So that vibration of Om is how God created everything. And at the heart of every atom of creation is that Om vibration. That's why scientists now say that solid matter, the floor we're sitting and standing on, seems very solid, but it's really energy. It's really a manifestation of energy. And that energy is just a manifestation of thought. And scientists are starting to say what theologians say and what the rishis of India have always said, that the universe begins to look like consciousness. And what we can do is make sure that our consciousness is joy, that our consciousness is trust in God, faith, intuitive faith in God, and love. If we can have that consciousness of trust, surrender to God's plan for our lives, which nothing can stop, And think of that in terms of joy, the realization, the communion with everything that is, as the Festival of Light so beautifully says, O children of light, forsake the darkness. Know that forever you and he are one. If we can discipline ourselves to have that positive, loving expectation, that last 1% will go very fast, and we will realize his bliss forever. Well, I will take the time now to read this beautiful letter that a friend gave me for Christmas. This is a New Year's message from Yogananda from 1952. Dear one, the new year greets us for another yearly cycle of spiritual evolution. Before entering its threshold, meditate deeply and then make your resolution. A single good resolution made with the determination to adhere to it faithfully is much better than many made with half-hearted interest and intention. My suggestion for your resolution this year is that you work in harmony with God's laws through attunement and through meditation on God and the gurus. God's laws are established metaphysical principles having both intelligence and harmony. It is foolish for one to try to defy them, as such transgressions bring only suffering to one's life. The laws were created by the Father for our benefit and for intelligent living. They include proper diet, daily physical exercise, daily meditation through scientific technique, mental peace and calmness, control over the senses, alert thinking, impartial introspection, service to humanity, cooperation with our fellow man, and love for and loyalty to God, the gurus, and humanity. These laws cannot be bypassed to reach God. One must establish harmony with them in order to realize the Father. Live intelligently to find God, since it is impossible to realize him in ignorance. Harmony with the Father's laws, with your fellow man and with humanity, will prepare you to contribute in a more effective way to universal peace and harmony, which is so very badly needed today. If you establish harmony and happiness within yourself, you can be a wonderful influence for other people, and they in turn will want to follow your example to help others. The divine power of harmony and love is forceful indeed. God wants us to live intelligently and harmoniously with each other, or he wouldn't have created us. All negative qualities such as hate, sloth, lust, jealousy, doubt, fear, disharmony, and anger, these are the power of ignorance manifesting through the influence of the satanic force. Have no part in them. Live in harmony with God's intelligent and just laws and meditate every day, practicing faithfully the scientific techniques of meditation. The intuitive whispers of the gurus will then come to guide you and console you at all times. With unceasing blessings, Paramhansa Yogananda.
Topic for the Ray's reading today, the Bible and Bhagavad Gita reading, did God create the universe or did he become it? Poses an interesting dilemma because it pushes forward the question, does it have to be one or the other? And the answer is both. Yes, he created and he became. And often in our lives we will see that the alternatives that we're faced with are not either or. They are alternatives, but they represent a spectrum of choice and possibility. And it's up to us to learn, as Nirmala was saying, to be instruments for something positive in the world. And as Master's letter very beautifully, that's quite a letter. We make a practice of not telling each other what we're going to say at Sunday service. And so I had never heard that letter before. I knew she had it, and I had gotten it too on an email, but I hadn't looked at it yet. That's quite a statement of complete. Master had this gift for giving us a direction, but he didn't just leave it as a direction. He could have just said, love God, or he could have said, find God, or he could have said, commune with Om, as Jaya and Sadhana were saying last week in their Sunday service. All of those are powerful, positive directions. But Master took the trouble to bring it down into all of activity, into daily activity, which is to say, get some exercise, meditate every day. He didn't say meditate like, Superman or the Himalayan yogi, meditate 8 hours a day or meditate 12 hours a day or, do the impossible. He just said, do something. Start somewhere. You have to start where you are. I wanted to pick up a thread from something Jaya said last week about New Year's resolutions, because now a week of the year has gone by, and I don't know about you, but I think for many people, that list is either gone, conveniently forgotten. It's been sort of destroyed in one way or another. Perhaps it's on your altar, perhaps it's front and center in your life. I liked how Yogananda said, make one resolution. Commune with God. Go into stillness. Have deeper meditation. But what Jaya was pointing out is if your environment supports the resolution that you have, then you don't have to constantly exercise your willpower all day, 24/7, 365 days out of the year. You can exercise it in bursts. You can exercise it as required, but it isn't required constantly. And that's important because our will is a muscle that has to grow strong. Just as physical fitness, if you've been a couch potato, if you have assiduously practiced couch potato mudra in your life, as many of us around the world have done at one time or another, perhaps because of illness, perhaps because of whatever, just low energy, couch potato mudra doesn't help you to get fit in life, either physically or on any other level. And, it's interesting, I follow medical research and sort of progress in understanding how the body works. And different articles have proposed, nobody has said this real definitively, but they've said sitting is the new smoking. And it's an interesting thing to contemplate, because if sitting still leads to all kinds of lower energy manifestations, have you ever noticed, if you sit in a chair, or on a couch, and you especially one of those ones that kind of engulf you. Have you ever sat down on a couch and felt like, oh my God, am I ever going to get out of this thing again? It's like it sort of grabs you. Your energy tends to kind of go down. If you're reading a really powerful book or something, your energy may be really drawn into that, and it may be really focused and strong. But it's altogether too easy to get drawn into that. We have to get up and move. I have one of these apps on my phone that will, if I allow it to, will slowly drive me crazy through the day because it will ask me to move every half an hour. And that's good. I mean, I have it every hour now because every half hour started to make me crazy. You know, there are times when you want to focus on something for more than a half an hour at a stretch, and you don't want this thing buzzing at you or beeping. But in general, it can be helpful to have a little reminder once in a while, because we can just space out and I would suggest that we take one thing that we can improve in our environment, rather than taking a resolution and saying, I'm going to, you know, whatever, I'm going to exercise every day. Say, I'm going to create a flow in my environment that will help to support that affirmation, that resolution. And I will do something today. Let me do something today that's positive and forward-looking, because otherwise the days go by and by and by. You know, we get into habits of mind, habits of practice, and we have to make it ever fresh, ever new. The other night I was thanking the people who arrange the flowers for the altar and, you know, who clean and take care of the temple. Flowers have to be fresh. You know, you can't, we don't put plastic flowers on our altar. I mean, yes, in theory we could, you know. I mean, if disaster strikes and the flowers don't come one Sunday, you know, once every 2 or 3 years, there may be plastic flowers on that altar. But generally speaking, they are fresh and they are gorgeous. There's a hint in that. Our devotion should be fresh and it should be gorgeous. And it can be that every single day. It doesn't have to be on special occasions. It can be every single day. There's a thought that I had in regards to a direction that we could take for this year. And I want to extend something that Jaya and Sadhana were saying last week. They were suggesting commune with Om as a direction for this year. And I want to just follow that by saying communing with Om means learning to listen. Om may be playing, may be booming through the universe, but we have to actually listen to it. That little phrase from the Bible passage that says, the light shineth in darkness and the darkness comprehended it not. There's a physics to that as well as just a spiritual or metaphysical truth in it. The physics of it is that if you're sitting in space and you have the sun behind you or to one side of you, there is no light around you until you hold up a piece of paper and catch it. The light is actually blasting through the darkness, but there's nothing to reflect it. There's nothing to grab it. But if you make yourself, and you turn a mirror, I mean, you'll blind yourself with the sunlight. But if not, the light is just going to pass right on by. In our lives, there's light around us all the time. But we have to learn to reflect it, and we have to learn to channel it, and we have to learn to let it pass through us. This is one of the keys to the affirmation that's very helpful and lovely. In the very first line of the little explanation, Swami says, we learn what, I'll paraphrase, he says, we learn what love is not by being loved, but by loving. We learn from childhood, from the lovely feeling of when people express love towards us. We learn that it feels wonderful to receive that, just as it feels wonderful to receive a gift. But we never reach our full potential as human beings unless and until we learn to also offer that willingly into the world. And it's very easy to make excuses for why we're too busy or why there's too much going on. oh, I'm not qualified. I remember I used to have this interesting thought in my mind. When I took up the construction trades in my late teens and early 20s, I somehow thought, I had an uncle who had rewired and replumbed his entire house, this huge Victorian house in Oak Park in the Chicago area. I was amazed that he had done this. I just thought, wow, you have to go to school for 4 years to be able to do all, you have to go and learn methodically, carefully. And there's a lot to it, of course. There is a lot to it, and safety issues are certainly a concern. But it's possible to do it. And I began to appreciate, because as I drove through the world of childhood, there were all sorts of interesting things around me. There were buildings, there were, I remember taking a trip in 8th grade or 7th grade down to St. Louis and going up in the arch, the huge arch, the gateway to the west, 600 or something feet tall. This thing is enormous. How did it get there? It didn't fall out of the sky. Somebody built it, somebody designed it, somebody fundraised for it, or whatever they did. All of the things around us were built with intention, and we have the chance to be the architects of life, or to allow the architecture, as Nirmala was saying, nothing can stop God's plan for your life. We have the chance to go and read those blueprints for our life and tune into them and help to construct them and to creatively put our energy into that. And when we do, and as we do, we will discover that we are instruments for something much bigger in this world. This world is bumping along, alternating between brilliance and apparent disaster. And we may think, oh my God, it's just too much. I'm just one little person. I'm too young. I'm too busy. I'm too old. I'm too whatever. I'm too whatever to deal with it. But in fact, that's the opportunity that God gave us in life, is what will we do with what has been given to us? What has been given to us isn't as important as what we do with it. And so let us be instruments for that light. And the way I would express it, just to add on to what Master was saying, is find a way in our lives to plant peace. Plant the seeds of peace. Plant them daily through meditation, but also plant them daily through activity in our lives in some way or other. Planting the seeds of peace is not enough, because once they sprout, then we have to attend to those little seeds, those little seedlings that are coming up, which means we have to water them, give them a little attention. We have to weed away the things that are trying to choke them out. And there will be things. If the soil is fertile, there's going to be stuff growing in it, not just our little sacred seeds, but all kinds of other things that are very distracting. Weed those out. And then we have to harvest peace. And again, this can come from meditation, but we receive that harvest. The fruits, we have all these lovely citrus trees here and other kinds of fruit trees. We don't leave the stuff sitting there till it rots. We harvest it, we pick it, we consume it, we sell it, we give it away. Then the final step is to share what we've harvested. And then I remember reading on a shampoo bottle when I was a child, shampoo, rinse, repeat. I never quite, the repeat part always kind of confused me, because it seemed to me that if you got it right the first time, why did you have to repeat it a second time? But anyway, leaving that aside. The repeat part is actually relevant. I don't have a lot of hair, so I don't think I have to repeat twice. But the repeat part is important because that process continues. It's not just, well, I did it once. It didn't work. I tried that meditation stuff. Phooey, tried for 5 minutes. I couldn't get anywhere. No, we vote all the time in terms of our consciousness. And if we voted for distraction and disappointment and ignorance, then it's going to take a little while for the light to dawn if our commitment has been too much to those things. Stay with that process. I remember my first attempts at gardening up in the clay soil of Ananda village. I thought, oh, well, let's see. It's really intense, that clay. You know, we need something to break it up. So I added tons of sawdust to it, and I thought, oh, well, this will help. This will be really great. Well, sawdust and clay by themselves, they're just not a really good recipe. It just, nothing grew. Nothing grew. I mean, I had all these little wildflower seeds. It was like zero. Yeah, you know, I mean, it's a beginning. I mean, the sawdust wasn't bad, but I mean, it needed a lot of other stuff as well. And I learned slowly. Well, meditation is like that too. We have to take the trouble to learn the steps and the process rather than just saying, oh, well, I tried that, phooey, didn't work. Because it will grow inside of us, and it will grow in ways that we can't even begin to imagine right now. And the blessings that will come through us will transform our lives and bless those around us.